Hey y'all, Charleston's first health and wellness festival is coming up in just a few weeks. Live Wild Fest is taking place May 4th and 5th at Holy City Brewing in North Charleston, and it is the first of its kind. Rather than being your normal health and wellness expo where you receive thousands of business cards, Live Wild Fest is entirely experiential. Join them for 2 full days of offerings from movement classes, meditation, cacao ceremonies, cold plunging, saunas, and more, and all of it supporting and uplifting local businesses. Each day ends with live music from artists such as Arizona, Matt Kearney, Evan Gia, and more. Whether you are new to health and wellness or you are a seasonal practitioner, this festival is for you. You will leave inspired, connected, and part of a community based on joy and celebration. So join them at Live Wild Fest this May 4th and 5th. They have single day or full weekend passes available now. The ticket link is livewildfest.com/tickets. Again, that's livewildfest.com/tickets. Holy City Center Radio, this is episode 246, and I am your host, Christian Sanger. Today is Wednesday, April 24th, 2024. Welcome back, or welcome for the first time to Holy City Center Radio. So happy to have you here. I hope things are going well in your world. I had a great weekend. High Water Fest was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, Sunday didn't get rained out. It went on, but it was quite rainy for a big chunk of the festival. So that was a little bit of a bummer. I know I mentioned on the last episode, that I was hoping, things would still, go through, and they did. But I can't lie, I did not last anywhere near as long as I would have liked to. I don't know if I just wasn't. No, I mean I do know I wasn't putting in enough effort looking at the weather reports. And I just pulled up my phone. I was like, "Oh, cool! It says rain stopping in 20 minutes or whatever." So by the time I get there, we'll be good. So I get to North Charleston. It wasn't raining, just like my app had said, but I neglected to continue looking at future forecasts. And lo and behold, shortly after getting there, it starts to rain, and then it just kept picking up, and it was a pretty good amount of rain that was coming down. And me being an even bigger dummy than I've already mentioned, uh, didn't bring any warm clothes. I was in shorts and a t-shirt and a hat, no sweatshirt, no rain jacket, no poncho, nothing. So even though I was doing just fine for a little bit after getting drenched, obviously the temperature was falling too, and I was quite cold and unhappy. So I ended up leaving a lot earlier than I wanted. The bands I missed were ones I've seen live before, so not a huge deal, but I was looking forward to seeing them. So I was a little bummed out about that, but that's certainly not the event's fault. Can't control the weather, and it was like no pun intended, a perfect storm as far as there's construction going on around the venue, so some of the parking spots they've had in the past weren't available, and also one of the few places where you could get under a roof. They had this like open air pavilion, I guess, between the two stages. There's also like a children's little playground next to it for those who are familiar with Riverfront Park in North Charleston. Of course, that's under construction now. Granted, even if it was open, I'm sure it'd been tough because so many people would have been trying to squeeze under there. But yeah, so there's really nowhere to hide. So it was a little bit of a bummer. I was able to catch a few acts, and most notably a band called the Linda Lindas, which is kind of like a punk rock band. All the members, I think, are like 19 years old or younger. They have a drummer who's 12 years old, and they were really good. I mean, especially for their age, it's even more impressive. And I was able to catch the Wallflowers, so for both ends of the spectrum, they're like a newer band, and one who's been around since the mid to late 90s. And unfortunately missed some of the later acts like Grace Potter, the Flaming Lips, etc. But overall, a good time. Otherwise, the only other thing that's happened since the last podcast, my parents are still here, so certainly enjoying hanging out with them. We went out to Martin's Barbecue on James Island. That's a place we tend to go to a lot when they visit. It's one of our favorites, and I just really enjoy it. I've had a lot of different things there. All of it is really, really good. There's very few things that I would just avoid personally. And that's just for personal taste reasons. I don't think they're necessarily things that you wouldn't enjoy, like they're bad dishes or anything. It's just not my personal thing. So pretty much everything over there is pretty tasty. We always like going there. They can bring their dog because they have an outdoor section where dogs are allowed. And yeah, we've always seem to make sure we get to at least there, even if when they're visiting, we end up making dinner. And by we, of course, I mean my mom. Make dinner in my place. We always at least get there, so it was fun to get out of the house and go do that with them. But other than that, pretty quiet. Had a fun weekend, like I said, and looking forward to this week. Got some fun things happening this weekend, which I'll talk about later. But enough about me. Let's get into the news. On the last episode, I mentioned a couple casting calls that were going on. Well, there's another one that's happening right now. So if you missed the last episode, the Righteous Gemstones are looking for extras. These are paid positions. You can get details in the show notes from last week or from a few days ago on Monday's episode. And then there was also some sort of production involving the Civil War where they're looking for people to who may have reenactment experience specifically with the Civil War. And this one is even more general. This is the one I came across. This is for Outer Banks, that hit Netflix show. They are filming their fourth season currently. So there's already been a few chances for people to be part of production, but they have some availability later this week. Now, by the time this comes out on Wednesday, a couple of the opportunities that you'll see in the post have already passed, but there are still some out there. So be sure to visit the link in the show notes if you're interested to see not only what they've posted already, but I also link to the casting company's Facebook page where they post all the latest updates, so you can follow them and make sure that you don't miss any casting announcements. Because sometimes, especially when productions are underway, their schedule changes or new needs come up, or like, what, I think we need a few more extras for this scene, or what we should have, we should get extras for this thing we're shooting. So sometimes things pop up a day or two beforehand. So definitely take a look at that. The casting company's name is Kimmy Stewart Casting, if you want to go search for it yourself. But again, you can just visit the link in the show notes. Specifically, they're looking for kooks and pogues. If those two terms mean nothing to you, that means you haven't seen the show. Those are the names of two essentially rival groups within this fictional universe of the Outer Banks, North Carolina, despite it filming here in Charleston area. So yes, if you're interested, go ahead and visit holycitycenter.com, and then you can see what's available and go ahead and email that casting company with all the things that they require, and maybe you'll end up on TV. A judge has ruled in favor of the Democratic Party over a Charleston County sheriff candidate by the name of Alan Ali. This happened on Tuesday. He had filed a lawsuit to get his name on the primary ballot after the South Carolina Democratic Party refused to certify him. So Ali's attorneys took legal action against the Democratic Party on April 11th. He announced that he would seek the Democratic nomination for Charleston County Sheriff back in December of 2023. But a couple things came up. Number one, members of the South Carolina Democratic Party did not believe he was necessarily a Democrat and was not necessarily saying things on his, for his campaign, his platform, that they felt were in line with their party's values. Now, they didn't come out and say that they thought he was really like a Republican who is running as like a spoiler or something, but they kind of alluded to it. If it wasn't fully that, they just believe that he didn't belong on the party ticket because what he was saying about what he believed or what he'd want to do just didn't jive with what they felt a Democratic nominee should be. So they said, no, we're not going to have you on the ticket. And another issue, the former chair of the South Carolina Democratic Party, Trav Robertson Jr., was challenging that candidacy, claiming that Ali did not meet the requirements because he hadn't resided in Charleston County for at least 1 year before the election. So yes, the sheriff for Charleston County has to live in Charleston County, but it can't just be, oh, I moved here 2 months ago. You have to be in this county at least 1 year before the election happens. So it's a combination of things. I think they probably went for the residency challenge, because that would be a little easier for them to get him off the ballot versus we don't think he really is a Democrat or isn't espousing the values that we believe a Democratic candidate should. But regardless of the reasoning, and they kind of gave both reasons as why, the lawsuit ended with being ruled in favor of the Democratic Party. So we'll see what happens. There may be a challenge, of course, an appeal. You know how these things go. Maybe he'll run as an independent. He's still able to run in the general election. He just can't run as a Democrat. So it's still possible that you'll see him on a ballot depending on what method he chooses, to run here as we go forward, if he indeed wants to continue his campaign. So this just happened, as I mentioned, on Tuesday. So, expect updates later on. I'll be sure to keep you posted. Speaking of politics and elections, there are two cities that had elections on Tuesday. Obviously, I'm recording this before the results have come in, but I wanted to still let you guys know about these. Number one, Folly Beach. Those residents went to the polls on Tuesday to vote in a special election. This is to fill former city councilman Eddie Ellis's city council seat. He left the council with his term unfinished, so he left before his term was up. So that's why they had this special election. There were two candidates hoping to take his place. Depending on what exactly happened, there may be a winner. Maybe they're still counting votes when you hear this. Who knows? But in all likelihood, they will have someone determined by the time have a winner determined, by the time you hear this podcast. So again, I know I'm not really giving you any information like, hey, get out and vote. It's too late. Or, hey, who's won? It's too early when I'm recording this. But in case you're interested, you can go look up who ended up winning that race. The other election, again, obviously a special election since it's happening here in April, was on Kiawah Island. They were holding elections for two positions. One was for a new mayor, so obviously pretty significant for the island, and also a member of town council. So same thing, they went to the polls on Tuesday. Results for both of those are likely in, and you can go check on those if you're interested. I will certainly be sharing that news on, in Twitter for sure, maybe some other areas that Holy City Center's on, whether it's the website, newsletter, etc. So you can get updates on those special elections that happened. And that'll do it for this Wednesday edition. Just a quick little update. Pretty short show. We haven't had a super short one in a little while, so get out there and enjoy the rest of your day. Go listen to some more podcasts. I'll be back on Friday. We have an interview scheduled, so that is the plan. Friday's episode should be an interview for you to enjoy and relax to as you go into your weekend. And looking forward to that. It should be another good one. We've had a handful of interviews here in 2024, and it's been great hearing from all these local folks. I'm getting good feedback from it, so looking forward to doing another one. I want to thank everyone for listening, and Lindsay Marie Collins with LMC Sound System for producing this and every episode of Holy City Center Radio, and Tyler Boone, whose music you hear in each and every show as well. We'll be back with you on Friday. Until then, good night and good luck.